Krishna. Not just I want out of here, that's salvationism, but I want to be with Krishna. And how do you be with Krishna? You have to serve him. That's the medium of a relationship of service. So that's how you move from it's all about me to it's all about Krishna, that the medium, the method is bhakti, service. Just a detail, Radhika Raman made the comment in one of his classes that scholars that translate bhakti commonly just call it devotion. And Prabhupada added a new term. It was devotional service. Because devotion by the scholars is taken as like mushy, sentimentalism, bhakti, sentimentalism. But don't call it so negative, just call it devotion. But sentimentalism, it's got a connotation to them. But it's devotional service. The medium is really devotional service. That is, the object of love is to be served, and Krishna is the object of love. And that's how to get away from the selfishness. It's all about me consciousness to it's all about Krishna consciousness. The medium is devotional service. And then devotional service, you unpack that, and it's so many things, but it's devotional service.
Thank you, Raj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare
Okay,
Krishna
now you're
Maharaj.
on.
Thank you so much for coming and giving such beautiful class. My question is, and part of that question you answered with his question, but like you mentioned that Gopa Kumar wanted to be with Krishna in Goloka. And we always hear that that should be every devotee's goal, to go to Goloka. And sometimes I wonder, of course it depends on one's devotional service, and I wonder, like you mentioned in today's class, that Narada and Uddhava, they also, they felt that they are even not qualified to go there.
To go to Goloka, to go to Vrindavan.
To go to Vrindavan.
Yes.
So that,
Then what to speak of you?
Right. So sometimes I hear and then I get very discouraged.
Their learnedness and other forms of opulences is not the qualification. The qualification is this word that their acharyas use, natural. Gopa Kumar is just a little boy. He's not educated. He's not a scholar. He's not a rishi. He's not a, born. He doesn't have the opulences of piety. He's just a simple boy. But he got mercy, and he has eagerness. So that's all it takes. That. Process it differently. What's the use for me because I'm this? So insignificance, that's good. That's a qualification. Feeling insignificant is good, qualification-wise. But don't let it be a material insignificant. Let it be a spiritual insignificant. And therefore, I need mercy of such residents of Vrindavan. And I was making the comment this morning that by my experience of reading these commentaries of our acharyas again and again and again, every morning, every evening, every morning, every evening, we're getting that association through them. That's the qualification. Because sangat sanjayate, kama. We develop kama, desire, like those with whom we associate. So we hear from them That's the mercy that's required to have that qualification. Now, Narada's speaking that way because he's Narada. Does he have... but he has that association also. Uddhava, Krishna sent him to Vrindavan. He spent time with Nanda and Jasoda. There's a whole... in Gopal Champu, there's this long... what the exchange between them. And then the gopis, the exchange between him and the gopis. He got, all you need is a moment's association. Lava matra. And we're getting again and again. Do I sound? And it's not different. Physical presence and sound. Sound is the more powerful, more important part than physical proximity. So I sound. So that's our hope. Sound. And they're speaking of, again, they're humble. Because they're elevated. They're not falsely humble, they're humble. They're spiritually humble. But they're qualified. Uddhava had received the mercy. Narada also. But they're speaking that way about themselves. So it's not like, what about me? I'm garbage. We're insignificant, but we're not garbage. We're tiny, spiritually. But so the hope is the mercy of those who have that qualification. And we're getting it through sound. I'm repeating myself now. So let me cherish and value and hold in the highest esteem this sound vibration, because it can carry one to that place, to that mood. I find, again repeating, but from reading these commentaries again and again, it's really mercy, and you can feel it. I'm getting letters from people that are hearing these classes saying, it's way over my head, but I feel uplifted. Not because I understand it, but just the sound vibration, I feel uplifted. I'm getting up earlier, and I'm feeling more energized with my japa and my duties at work and in the home. It's just, things are changing just from this. So that's the mercy. That's how we get it. The unqualified can become qualified that way. Go on hearing. With big ears. Regularly. And the sound can pick you up and carry you. That's how it works. Anything?
Thank you very much for being here.
We got a microphone for the online people. I can hear you. Got a strong voice, but
Hare
I
Krishna
don't think they
Maharaj.
can hear you.
Thank you for being here, and we're blessed to have you. My question, I usually don't ask questions. They go over my head, a lot of the things. But the question, Gopa Kumar, you were saying that he declines for rupa. I did not get that. What that meant.
Okay.
And then I'll have a different question. I'll ask after.
Okay.
That.
There are, in the category of mukti, there are 5 types. And one of them is impersonal, merging, called sayuja. And 4 of them are personal. And one of those 4 is achieving a form like the Lord. Sa rupya mukti. So when he got to Vaikunta, the persons who brought him there, they got him in a corner and said, you shouldn't dress like this. You should dress like we dress, and you should have a form like we have. Get with it. That's the style here. Sarupya. He said, no, I like this form. I like my attire. So they left him alone. But that's one of the kinds of liberation, sarupya. And then later they offered him opulences like Narayan and like themselves. He said, no. That's opulence, that's another kind of liberation. One who has opulences like the Lord. It's a feature of the residents of Vaikunta. It's a personal liberation, or mukti. No. And then the next verse says, but suddenly my whole body became transformed into Satchitananda form. So it's no longer a material body, but now it's a spiritual body looking like the same thing he looked like. Cowherd boy with the same attire and same this and that. Okay?
The second question is, it probably is more for like a time management, how to manage the time, getting up early,
Great.
and I like to open the temple. For the last few years, I do that service to our Tapuji in the morning, but there's no set time. Sometimes it's an 8 o'clock, sometimes an 8:30. It just struggling with that all the time.
And so?
So how do I,
Get
set
over the
rule
struggle?
for myself, or
Well, that you're doing it itself is fantastic. So congratulations. Because there are lots of people that don't do that at any time. So, a time management question indeed. Recommended is for householders, household duties may make one's life this time, this day, that day, a little different from one another. But it's best to have a baseline that's, when there isn't something disturbing it, it's more or less, or even it's precisely at such and such time. Specific with deities. And one of the benefits is it makes one's life more regulated. And when one's life becomes more regulated, one's life moves towards the quality of goodness, because that's a feature of goodness. Just like being clean, it's a quality of goodness. Or being truthful, it's a quality of goodness. Keeping your word is a quality of goodness. So it's good to be in the mode of goodness. So things that can help, doable steps that are direction of the mode of goodness, that's a time management thing. But it's also a character building and mode of nature influencing choice. So ideal, not like you get an F on your exam if you don't do this, but it's ideal that there's a specific time. And for this is home worship. It's not the same as in the temple. It's more, there's more flexibility in the home, but it's around the same time. Then there's certain things that one does in relation to the worship of the deity, and there's certain these are our home standards, and we do them every day. Even when we're in a hurry, we do them every day because it's deity worship. It's every day.
Maharaj, you had mentioned in one of these, I don't remember exactly which day, but you mentioned that Krishna never leaves Braja.
Yeah.
And so when he went to Dwarka, this is when he was doing the pastimes on this earth, right? So that's when he never leaves Braja?
No.
No.
It goes like this. When he appeared as the I'm going to give you a little more detail than you maybe thought you were going to get. But the bottom line is he never leaves Braja. So when he left, let's start on the easier end. When he left Braja, it was Akrura took him. But when Akrura was riding in his chariot towards Mathura, he requested Krishna and Balaram's permission to take his bath in the river Jamuna before going to Mathura. So they consented, he got down. And when he went into take his bath, he saw Krishna and Balaram. He was perplexed, and he went back, but they were on the chariot. So then he went back and he saw the spiritual world. And you remember that pastime, right? And then he went back and Krishna said, is everything all right? And he said, yeah, everything's all right. I couldn't be happier having you as my Lord and Master. And then Krishna and Balaram wanted to take their bath in the river Jamuna. So his taking bath, the Acharya's comment, his taking bath in the river Jamuna indicate he stayed in Braja. And it's Vasudeva Krishna that got on the chariot and went to Mathura. So how did he stay in Vrindavan? He entered into the hearts of the devotees. Then his appearance is a little more complicated. I mean, it's transcendental. Staying in the heart is also transcendental, but he's eternally in Vrindavan. And not only Vasudeva Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, but Mother Jasoda gave birth to twins. A not well-known fact, but there's scriptural references, and if you remind me, I'll send you the document that explains it. Mother Jasoda gave birth to twins. And when Vasudeva came and brought Vasudeva Krishna, four-armed Vasudeva Krishna, although he has a two-armed form at that time, Vasudeva Krishna, that Vasudeva Krishna merged into the body of Swami Bhagavan Krishna, who was left by the side of Mother Yashoda, and then he took the female child. So how did Krishna, Swami Bhagavan Krishna, become the child of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj? Well, he can appear however. He doesn't need anything. He can appear out of poof. He just appears. So he appeared because he's always in Vraja, but he appeared as the son of Yashoda and Nanda. Now it's often said the foster child, meaning he was the child of Vasudeva and Devaki, but he was the child of both. I'll send you the commentary. Just remind me. I'll send you the scriptural commentary. That's the verses and the explanation of the verses. So he's always before his birth as the son of Yashoda and Devaki, and Yashoda and Nanda. He's always in Vrindavan. His Leela becomes aprakat, unmanifest, but they're always there. And his Leela is sometimes prakat, and then it's aprakat, not manifest, it's withdrawn for vision of worldly people. But qualified people can see. We're not those qualified people yet, but there are qualified people that can see. After Krishna, so here's a nice example that I like. Have you been to Vrindavan? Have you been to Radhakund? And when you've gone to Radhakund, did you go to the Gopinath temple? You're not sure, but you think so. Over on one side is the Samadhi of Raghunath Das, and then over on the other side, there's a little place where you can walk out on a little patio, and there's the place where Janava sat and chanted. Janava Ma says over the shrine there. So Janava, the wife of Lord Nityananda, after his departure, she remained, and she went to Vrindavan because she had never been able to go to Vrindavan. She saw Gopinath and said there should be a temple for Gopinath right here, so they built a temple for Gopinath. And then she sat in that little outer area, and she would just chant the holy name. And one time when she came back, she described, and maybe you've seen in paintings, but she described, she saw a bridge spanning over Radha Kund. I'd never seen a bridge. And she saw Radha and Krishna having pastimes with other gopis on that bridge. She was seeing their eternal pastimes that you and I can't see, but people that have the spiritual capacity can see, because they're eternally going on. That's after his departure and before his appearance. It's an eternal place. But it's not the physical place. It's the spiritual place. You know, this physical place is dirty. And the spiritual place isn't. It's a spiritual place. And the spiritual pastimes are going on there with the opulence that's described. The peacocks and the trees and the this and the that and the everything. The cuckoos and the splendor of Braj. He's always in Braj. And when this place is destroyed, that parsonage is destroyed, and he's always there. Do you have online? I'm sure.
So this is from Sri Jiva. Gopa Kumar was in Vaikunta. How can someone miss anything in Vaikunta?
How can anyone miss?
Anything in Vaikunta.
Well, it depends what he means, miss. He was satisfied, but not satisfied. I think he was missing the satisfaction of seeing and participating in the pastimes of Gopal. He was seeing Narayan seated on the throne as Gopal, but not the pastimes with all the associates of Braja. So that's what he was not seeing and not experiencing.
And this is from Gopinath. Why is Gayatri Mantra confidential?
Leave it to children. Why is it confidential? Well, a simple answer is confidential because the Lord says it's confidential. But why does the Lord say it's confidential? Unqualified people may take something that's confidential and misuse it. And therefore, its confidentiality is for qualified people. And then one can make oneself qualified to receive it because it's a very powerful mantra. And if one isn't qualified, then one can't achieve its benefit, and one can even misuse whatever benefit can be derived from it, so it's confidential.
And this is from Atulya Mataji. The example of Gopa Kumar is very high for his age. His journey and experience is very astounding. How can I make his example relatable for my kids in this world? which is filled with competition and pulling other child down. For example, what to learn about how Gopa Kumar dealt with his peers?
He's a hero. He's a superstar. I mean, how do you take what Prahlad Maharaj did, or how do you take what Dhruva Maharaj did, or how do you take what other youngsters did? And Gopa Kumar's, in yet another category. It's just, it's a hero. And we can't imitate heroes. We don't put on a Superman cape and go flying through the sky, jump out the window or something. But kids know what heroes are. They don't imitate them. So he's teaching us by his example. Gradually becoming more and more and more and more attracted to the spiritual world, and then specifically to the personality of Godhead. He's showing us by example. He's a hero, a role model. And that's what he's doing with this elder Brahmin. He's just using his example to teach the elder Brahmin something.
This is from Amrita Keli Mataji. When you were talking about Shabda Praman, you mentioned about the material Shabda Praman from United Airlines regarding their safety measures, etc. Surprisingly and unfortunately, I realized that I have strong faith on that kind of Shabda Praman, though it is also not verifiable. On the other hand, for the spiritual Shabda Praman, the mind raises n number of questions and doubts. So the questions that she has about this is: 1, why is this so? And the second question is it sufficient to continue hearing the spiritual sound vibration with faith?
Yes.
To come out of this?
Yes. I mean, we apply our intelligence along with faith, but back to the first one, we're conditioned souls, and that conditioning is strongly reinforced by the education process that we have experienced in this lifetime and probably many lifetimes. That is, we rely on our senses. And then we rely on our mind to make sense or make organize in some kind of pattern the sensory data. It's like for example, I didn't even know what cricket was until I went to India. I didn't even know that such a sport existed. And when I see cricket and see people going nuts over cricket games, to me it's totally unrelatable, because I don't even know what the rules are. It's like I just, even just trying to figure out what the rules are by watching the game, I can't figure out what the rules are. So it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. So we make sense of things that we're familiar with, and things we're unfamiliar with. Our mind can't process it. There's no pattern that it fits. So transcendence doesn't fit the mind. So it's not you get an F in your exam because you're a conditioned soul. Which meaning we have faith in our mind and senses. Sense perception and mental speculation, that's what we have faith in. And we have lots of reinforcement and lots of recognition for however good we are at it. We get rewards and appreciation and this and that. And it's just, it's illusion. It's illusory. So what to do about that? Well, to some degree there's faith, otherwise you wouldn't be practicing bhakti as you have been doing for some time. So you just continue with faith and prayer and continue to try to understand. That's an instruction Prabhupada gave again and again. Now, you won't be able to understand by speculative powers. You can be able to understand by some other method. But try to understand. And if you don't understand, then keep hearing and continue to try to understand. Purification will take place, and then, oh, that's what that means. And then you keep going, oh, it wasn't exactly what that means, but now it was. So the understanding becomes refined and clearer over time. That's purification, how it works.
And this question is from Visalaksha Prabhu. Gopa Kumar is the Vrajavasi. Still, why does he need to travel to Vaikunta Dham, to Ayodhya, and finally to Vrindavan? Are there any lessons to learn from this gradual travel?
Yes. And he's, he's a mixed becoming unmixed. And so the mixed goes from one thing to the next thing to the next thing and finds it doesn't work, that's not satisfying, that's not satisfying, that's not satisfying, that's not satisfying. That's what mixed devotees do, at least if they're honest. It's not satisfying. So he's looking for satisfaction, and because he's had not only because he was born in Vrindavan, but he has a certain inclination which was also instilled in him by his spiritual master. Finally, he comes to find out his name, Jayanta, because it was disclosed to him. But that's the lesson we have to learn. Looking for happiness in something other, in the temporary realm, that's not going to be satisfying. And then out beyond the temporal realm, there's other realms, and they're not fully satisfying either. I mean, specifically the Brahmajyoti part, and then Shivaloka, and so forth. So they're not fully satisfying. Then it becomes this more subtle, which is the mood of service and love in Vaikunta, then in Ayodhya, then in Dwarka, and then in Vrindavan. So they're also perfect, but there's more perfect, most perfect. That's the lesson to be learned by Gopa Kumar's going from one place to the. He was just taken to Vaikunta. He didn't spin the dial and say, I want to go to Vaikunta. The Vaikunta Vasis came, he was in Vrindavan, and they came to him, and they took him. It's not like he was kidnapped, but they took him, and he was a willing passenger.
This is Thira Mataji. I have heard Gopa Kumar visiting Tapaloka, Maharloka, etc. Is Gopa Kumar's journey to Vaikunta a continuation of that?
Yes.
This is a question from Radha. What are the reasons that make Gopa Kumar not happy in Ayodhya and only happy in Goloka?
Sweetness.
This is from Pratibhahu Prabhu. Usually this question comes up. Can I change my Swarupa after I go back to spiritual world?
Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked that question of Prabhupada. And Prabhupada's answer was very short, like this one I just gave to Radha. He said, the spiritual world is not static, it's dynamic. He didn't elaborate. He said, yes, the spiritual world is not static, it's dynamic. However, we heard, and it's true, that whatever one's particular position, rasa, etc., that's natural for one, One is feeling fully satisfied. One is not looking at the other side of the fence and saying, whoa, maybe the grass is greener over there. One's satisfied. Like, ask Hanuman, you want to go join the rasa dance? Ram. he's fixed.
Yeah. So Pratibhahu Prabhu kind of continued with that and asked, based on today's lecture, would the answer be that it might be possible in special cases?
Yes. That's it. You sometimes have something. Anything?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Some time back I heard, if I don't remember properly, the different avatars of the Lord which appear here, they will have counter parts in the spiritual world, like different planets. So if like Matsya Avatara, so specifically, does Matsya Avatara has a specific Vaikunta planet where devotees worship?
Just a language, before I directly respond to your question. The word counterpart can mean different things. So perhaps a better word is the form of Lord Nrsingadev in the spiritual world, did he just manifest that form here? Is the form of Matsya in the spiritual world, or he just manifested that form here? So it's not exactly counterpart, it's, they're the same. So that's just language. But the answer is yes. And what we're hearing from this section we just read, the forms of the devotees and the forms of the Lord, they appear to the devotee according to the worship, how the devotee worshipped the Lord. So King Satyavrata, that's how he's going to see the Lord of Vaikunta. But it's not static, it's dynamic. Someone else may see according to their mood of love and worship. And it's the same Lord. That's mystical, but that's the authority presentation that we're hearing. Like within our, more common experiences, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Lord Jagannath, what did he see? Krishna holding a flute. That's not what we see. Yes.
This is Rukmavati Mataji. The question is, how to align the mind, senses and intelligence?
Paramarupa is making a whole presentation for college kids exactly on that topic. So contact Paramarupa, and as he comes out with one section and then the next section, it's exactly on the topic. We have to have the right conception. Let's say it negatively. We have misconceptions, and it takes a while to clear out the misconception and replace the misconception with proper conception. And on this alignment topic, we have, what do we understand about anything? What do we understand about what the mind is? The Western philosophers they still haven't settled whether there is a mind or not. Descartes posited, and then, because there wasn't a follow-up, well, where is the mind? So what's the mind? What's the space in which the mind is situated? Because it's subtle, it's not in the physical space. So what's the space in which the mind is situated? Well, he tried to posit it was somewhere near the pineal gland. He put it in physical space, but it's not physical. So it just kind of got dropped. So then, then the mind-body problem, and it's still going on, the mind-body problem. Because there's gross and there's subtle. So it's because there's a misconception of what the mind is. So alignment you have to have proper definitions of things. That's where Sankhya comes in. So understanding Sankhya isn't a snap of the fingers. I mean, it's written in the text, but how do all the puzzle pieces fit together? What is the mind? And how does it work in connection with the senses and with sense objects and with Prakriti and the modes of nature? And so it's alignment requires a clear conception, clear Sankhya conception. And to keep it simple, I'm sure Paramarupa is going to not make it too overly complicated, because it's for college kids. It'll have some dimension and depth to it, but it's not going to be super technical. So hear from him as he comes out with these things, because there's little video presentations to it. The visuals will help. Okay? Krishna Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. Interesting section.